Great, thank you very much. So again, I'm going to get quick logistics for all of the presenters. You have 3 minutes. I will introduce you. You can come up here and give your 3-minute pitch. There'll be 4 minutes of Q&A with the judges. You will get a warning at 30-second mark that you have 30 seconds left from Aya up here, and then we'll cut you off because we have to get through all of these in a timely manner. So with that, I'd like to introduce Cartogram, and Will, you're up.
Let me just get set up over here just a second. Hi, my name is Will Clausen, and I'm the CEO and founder of Cartogram. Thanks for being here today. I'm taking kind of a risk here trying to do anything with Bluetooth, so I live it on the edge, but we'll see if it works. So Cartogram, we provide indoor location services for other businesses. We're an indoor maps company, but we don't actually sell the indoor maps. The indoor maps are just a means to an end. They're not an end in themselves. And we provide these indoor maps to businesses so that they can solve very painful business problems, like being able to understand the utilization inside of their buildings, understand where people are going, what they're doing, what products they're searching for. And we also enable the end user experience to enable all of those things. So we're an indoor mapping platform. We're built on top of Google Maps. And I'll just kind of explain how it works. We have an SDK, and we sell that SDK to businesses. The business puts the SDK in their app, and it's going to be like for a large venue. And then the customers of that venue use that app and transmit their indoor location data back to the business. So there's kind of a two-way data stream that happens. This is what it looks like. So we provide indoor map management for the business to help them keep their indoor maps up to date. We provide turn-by-turn directions and proximity notifications. We have lots of really cutting-edge features, so I think that a lot of the things here maybe you're already familiar with, but we do a lot more, a lot of kind of forward-thinking things. One of those is we have products that are available for over 300 retailers nationwide. So that means you can go to the mall, search for a sweater, and we'll show you all the sweaters inside the mall that are in stock right now, and you can find whatever you want. It can be blue, it can be red, whatever size, and then we'll give you turn-by-turn directions to that. Multi-venue wayfinding is made possible by our built-in Google Maps integration, so that's a really powerful feature by itself. You can't buy it somewhere else. Near View is our latest product. It allows businesses to tailor their digital signage. The ads that show up based on the people who are inside the venue and their proximity to those signs. Our target markets for the next couple of years will be community colleges, retail, sports venues, and corporate campuses. And part of that is really just because of the early traction that we have. It's a huge market. It's expected to grow to about $5 billion by 2018 as a top-down approach. You get about the same number when you go bottom up. None of this really matters, though. It doesn't matter if you believe in indoor location services or if you have a problem finding a product. The only thing that really matters is that people are willing to pay money for it. And I'm happy to announce that the answer is yes, they are. For this month, we'll bring in over $40,000 in revenue. We have over $1 million in deals that we're currently in negotiation. That's either the contract stage or the pilot phase. And so General Motors, that's one of our pilots that we have. They have 2,500 buildings. Houston Community College, that's the 10th largest college in the United States. We have a paid pilot there. Pro Sports Club was our first paying customer. And I'm very pleased to announce that the Sacramento Kings have signed Cartogram as their official indoor location services provider for the next season in their new venue. Thank you very much, and I'll take some questions.
How much of the technology for the indoor mapping and the geolocation is wholly owned or wholly provided by you, and how much is dependent on third-party technologies or other devices?
So we have a platform, a layer that lives on top of another Maps platform. So we've integrated it before into Bing Maps. Right now we use Google Maps because they have a large selection of indoor maps available, but it will work on any Maps platform. So there's really no third-party dependencies other than there has to be another Maps platform to put it on. So there's not a requirement, but the hardware enhances the software. So if you have beacons, if you have Wi-Fi infrastructure, if you're going to allow us to fingerprint the building, then it makes it more accurate. If you don't, we still have a lot of value that we can add.
So you mentioned some paying customers. How do they pay? What is your payment model?
We like cash at Cartogram. We don't. So we have an annual subscription model, and we won't take a monthly customer. They have to sign a contract for at least a year. And so the payment model is we'll charge them for the SDK on an annual basis, but then we'll have a bunch of other revenue channels like the hardware, like there's licensing. Sometimes they might want to flip the switch on a really cutting edge feature. So those are the different revenue channels.
How much effort on your part is required to onboard a customer like a mall?
Great question. So we already have over 15,000 indoor maps indexed. That's more than anybody, including Google. Partially, we can do that because we build on top of what Google already has. So we go into the first sales meeting, and a lot of the times it already works. From us, we'll just hand over the SDK, we'll hand over the documentation, and they'll build it into their app. In some cases, the amount of onboarding time is just the sales cycle itself. We can have the maps ingested and all the content ready within 1 day per building. And that scales up, so one person can do one building per day. And so if there's 100 buildings that need to be done, then of course we can get it done in a week with less than 10 people. Oh, there's no work to do there. We already have all of that data. So it's turnkey. So if you picked a mall for me after this event, I could show you product search on it today, like right now actually.
Will, can you talk about where you currently are in terms of your prototypes and actual build-outs?
So I think that right now we're definitely past the prototype phase. Our near-view product is a little bit earlier than some of our others, but we do have rollouts. So we've integrated with the Pro Sports Club app. That's going to roll out a little bit later this year. The Sacramento Kings, we're going to be available in that app at the start of the season. So I guess I would say that we're past the prototype phase, but we're always looking into new products kind of based on the resources that we have available.
This is our last question.
I noticed on your site that you talked about using it for trade shows. Is that like a custom thing, or is it pretty self-service if you were launching a trade show?
We learned a lot last year. Last year was our first year where we actually started selling the product. And events are kind of something that we're pulling away from. You saw it wasn't on the roadmap for 2016 or 2017. There's a lot of hand-to-hand combat there, and the event actually changes on the day of the show, which causes a lot of effort for the team. So I don't see that as something that we're going to be going after real hard over the next year or two.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So again, last call for RBC signals. All right. Christopher Richens, I will hand you the mic.
Thank you.
Works. All right, my name is Christopher Richens, and I am the CEO and co-founder of RBC Signals. And I'm happy to be presenting to you today. RBC Signals provides global satellite ground station infrastructure as a service. So these guys are probably pretty familiar to you. Paul Allen, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Richard Branson. What do they have in common? Besides being very successful in their businesses, they have all proposed and are building the ability to put satellites into space, and they see that that is the next market that they want to pursue. So the global satellite business is about a $200 billion business today, and we're on the cusp of an explosion in that market. Right now there are hundreds of satellites in space providing commercial services, and soon there will be thousands over the next 10 years. And all of these satellites that are in space have a similar problem. Unfortunately, the data that these satellites create and the value that they create needs to be transmitted down to the Earth. Unfortunately, from 600 kilometers above the surface of the Earth and traveling at 17,000 miles an hour, it's very difficult to get that data down to the Earth. The signals need to be transmitted via line of sight. And these satellites, when they travel around the world every 90 minutes, they're only in view of a communications ground station on the Earth for a few minutes a day. So maybe 3 times a day, maybe 30 minutes total. And that doesn't allow for timely access to data, nor does it allow for a high volume of data to be transmitted. So these customers, they have 2 choices. They can either decide to build their own global network of ground infrastructure to be able to provide more communications opportunities, or they can go to existing vendors who provide services to the government and at costs that are just not compatible with the commercial business models of today. Fortunately, we have a team that knows exactly what this pain is and how to solve it. So myself, I was an engineer with Boeing Sea Launch. We launched commercial satellites from a ship on the equator. I was also at SpaceX. I was with Planetary Resources, and I was a consultant with Bain & Company. Just enough experience across a lot of areas to be dangerous. My co-founders, however, have been building low-cost ground stations for the last 25 years. So here's our traction for today. We have a network of 25 ground stations around the world. We provide this infrastructure as a service. Our customers are able to pay for only the services they use, and we have capabilities ready today to meet their needs. We're able to sign them up, and they're able to bring data down at very low cost and expand the value creation for their own spacecraft infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Hi. Who are your customers? Like, is it 5 huge customers, or is there really 100 somewhere?
There are, I would say it's not hundreds, but dozens, and they are operators of low Earth orbiting spacecraft. So companies that you may have heard in the news like Planet Labs or Spire, Earth observation companies like our local Black Sky Networks here, anybody that has satellites in space.
To be successful, you need to get those guys on the slide you showed.
Pardon?
To be successful, you need to get as customers those 5, Bezos, Allen.
Oh, those guys, it would be great to have them as customers. They're primarily providing launch services they're launching my customers into space. And so while it would be great to provide services to them, it's really their customers who are also our customers.
So how do you monitor the health of all these satellites, and operationally what percentage of your resources is spent on the operational aspects?
So we provide what's called a bent pipe communication service. So we don't own or operate the satellites. We provide the infrastructure on the ground to be able to communicate with the satellites in space. So nothing we have is in space, so none of our time is spent operating those assets, although that is an adjacency that can be addressed in further phases of the company.
Do you get your technology installed in the satellite before it launches, or do you work with existing communications technology that's already up there, or both?
We try to work with existing communications technology, and in fact, one of the great benefits to the industry as a whole through what we're doing is to drive standardization into the market. So rather than customers building their own custom equipment for every satellite that's being launched, they're able to leverage a common standard.
What do these ground stations cost? What's your burn now?
So the ground stations that we have in our network today are actually operated by partners, and it's on a revenue share basis, so we have 0 burn today.
Who are your current customers?
We're currently, we launched our beta product in February, and we are currently integrating our initial beta customers. So there are 3 types of customers. We have customers who are on orbit today that we're integrating to use the network as it is. We've got a customer who does not yet have his satellites on orbit, who we are planning to build new ground stations for. And then the third type of customer we provide engineering services to, where they don't have a communications architecture yet, and we give them consulting services so they know how to best leverage this network.
You're talking about actually building your own ground stations versus right now you're just partnering. Why not partner for all your ground stations?
We will partner, there is a lot of excess capacity, and so we will use that to provide the incremental needs or the ad hoc needs. But if we want to provide a guaranteed service, you need to be able to have dedicated control of that asset. And anything that's extra available from those assets, we'll be able to resell to other customers.
What's the barrier to somebody else coming in and doing this?
The barriers are knowledge of the technology, relationships in the industry, the building the relationships with these international players. I would say that it's a very small market, and it's difficult for a new player to come in and demonstrate credibility. A lot of the success that we've had to this point are because all of our team have decades of experience in the industry.
All right. That's it for our time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Samir with Subcurrent.
Mic check. Hi everyone, I'm Samir, CEO of Subcurrent. And Subcurrent is a chatbot that's redefining the way organizations gather, connect, and analyze their data that comes from their employees. Right now, companies spend $17 billion a year gathering intelligence and data from their employees, and they spend another $350 billion acting on that data. But there's a huge problem here. And that problem, all right, there's the problem. 50%, Gartner research indicates that 50% of companies don't know how to gather any data from their employees, and they don't know what the right set of data to gather is. But what's worse is the ones that don't know what to do with that data. And the reason that exists is because data right now is spread across a bunch of fragmented resources. There's data that flies through email, through meetings, through meeting conversations, and all of that is disconnected. There's no great way to connect it. And I experienced that firsthand at Microsoft when we were working on products like Windows Vista and Windows 8. And it was really hard to tell whether there was a lot of noise of discontent or whether there was actually something concrete that we could measure. And a solution to that wasn't really possible until now. Essentially, there's this massive shift in user behavior in enterprise, where now, as teams get more and more dispersed and technology is advancing, people are spending more and more time within chat applications. And advances in technology are basically taking software and bringing that in there as well. So now everything that people used to access in the cloud, they access in that common resource. And that's an opportunity to aggregate all that data together and deliver connected insights. And what's even helping us further is that technology and artificial intelligence and machine learning is advancing as well. So now you have the capability to not just put the data together, but to automate the collection and the analysis of that data. And that's where we come in. Our bot, Polly, the way you collect data is you train the bot to go get information from your employees on things that you want information on. So for example, you can get data on whether you think we'll ship on time, and essentially create a prediction market within your company. It goes and gets that data, combines it with metadata in Slack, and then provides detailed analytics on that data. And that's how we make money. We charge users for analytics once we've collected data and given them insights that we gather through chat. And one of our customers, Open Door, they use it to track product health. And Ryan basically said this bot is one that completely delivered for their company. And we've taken that and risen to the top to become one of the most popular enterprise chatbots in the world right now. And in addition to that, we have roughly 12 paying customers. Our team, my co-founder Bilal has built a chat application as an early employee at TalkRay and took that from 0 to 5 million users in 6 months. My background, I spent 8 years at Microsoft building complex data systems where we process billions of data points a day and use that to drive business decisions within the company. Thanks.
Thank you.
So chatbots seem like a hot area now.
Yeah.
Can you talk about your particular technology, your particular expertise, your particular competitive advantage?
Yeah, so one huge advantage that we had is we got into this game a year ago. So before chatbots were a thing, we were building chatbots, and that's why we have this big lead in the marketplace. Right now, we are in the top 1 or 2 most popular chatbots on the Slack ecosystem, and our advantage is essentially largely in our data analysis. So if you look at a lot of the chatbots out there, especially in enterprise, what they're doing is themselves. So we're the only people that can provide that unique insights for that company. There is a lot of expertise built into maintaining those kinds of connections with every single enterprise out there. And the way we're building it right now, because the only real thing that's certain in this whole chatbot game is that it's going to change, it's going to evolve. So the way we've built our infrastructure is it's essentially built on 3 layers. One is the real-time connection to each of the companies. The others are conversational layer, which we leverage third-party NLP tools for. And then we have a thin layer of an app. So essentially, we're ready to react to any changes in the ecosystem. So as Slack changes their API, or as Skype or Office 365 bring on new capabilities, we're ready to pounce on them immediately.
Is there any particular type of company that you're marketing most heavily to?
So right now, we basically, we're going with the Slack flow, which is the bottoms up, where the engineers and the startups are adopting it. But because we see this game as being an enterprise play, what we're doing is establishing relationships from bigger enterprises. So there's one public company that we're working with, and we've established a relationship with their CIO. And a problem that they had was they deployed CRM software for their engineers, for their sales team. And it took them a year to find out that CRM software didn't work for the company because there were hallway conversations. There was a lot of noise. It was hard to tell what was going on. And he saw his sales numbers climbing, so he thought everything was okay. But then realized there were a bunch of inefficiencies that he could have actually had more revenue. But by building in real-time feedback loops, so for example, when somebody interacts with the CRM software directly in Slack, our bot can listen to those events and immediately ask the user for feedback. And if they give negative feedback or don't like something, we can dig in further. And we've shortened that cycle from 1 year to real time. And now they spend millions of dollars deploying software. Immediately they can find out if a deployment is not working within the company. Any other questions?
So what you are describing sounds a little bit too good to be true. You're kind of saying that I can send this kind of nebulous query to a chatbot and it's going to give me useful information, and that seems incredibly hard to do.
Yeah.
And it looks like you're 2 guys going into different data sets. So can you kind of describe how you do that successfully?
So, I mean, one thing that's going on in the whole chatbot ecosystem is things aren't super mature yet. It's early in the game. So a lot of the stuff is very raw. But a lot of this is around the potential of chatbots. So for example, you can tie this back to the Industrial Revolution where machinery suddenly prevented people, got people who used to make things by hand to now make it by machine. So there was a change in the way people did labor. And essentially, those machines early on were pretty raw, needed a lot of hand-holding and involvement. That's kind of at the stage we're at right now, where you have bots that can go do things that humans used to do, but it's not even close to perfect yet. So it is raw, but there is so much potential there, and that's why you're hearing a lot of buzz in the tech press. There's a lot of people making noise. But the other part that comes with it is the distribution. Because of the way people are interacting with these chat applications, there's not just a change in technology or in machinery, but there's a change in the distribution. As people spend more and more time in chat, as people integrate all their software into that one place, that becomes the hub of activity. And so you can essentially create, it's the cost to add a bot to your team is in time less than it takes me to say this sentence. And that bot is already ready to interact with every single user within your company.
You're not there now, or even close, I assume, right?
We're not close to the whole, I see this in the future as being wikis that write themselves, or documents that are always up to date because the bot is the document or the bot is the wiki. But along the lines of what we've described, that stuff does exist. So we are collecting, essentially you train the bot to go get feedback along a specific vertical, and the bot goes and does that. And it's relatively straightforward, which is a conversation is basically a tree. And that tree determines what actions the bot needs to take. And the bot either listens for events or operates on a schedule to go ask people questions.
Thank you very much. All right, and next up we have Brian Howe with Elevator.
Hi, my name is Brian Howe. I'm one of the co-founders of Elevator, the marketplace for teams. Today I'm going to get to tell you about one of the most revolutionary technologies that exists as an incredibly powerful organizing principle, the tent. For over 500 years, the course of human history was set by the tent as an organizing principle. This is because the Roman military that controlled most of the known world for that period of time was organized in 8-person clusters. That's how many men could sleep within this tent. Today, companies like Twitter, Amazon, and others are looking back to this organizing principle to set up how they run their engineering teams and realizing that the best way to manage talent at scale is to organize in small, semi-autonomous clusters who move from project to project and get stronger as they go as a team. Elevator allows these teams to not just do this within companies like Twitter and Amazon and others, but to actually realize the asset they have is a high-performing team and put themselves in the market for other companies to acquire. How does it work? Well, we invite engineers, product managers, and other tech talent to join the platform. We ask them, who are the best people you've ever worked with and would love to work with again? We all know referrals are the #1 source of good hiring. We make referrals forward-looking. They form a team on our platform. We rank that team using Google algorithm, PageRank algorithm, building basically a talent graph showing us who the strongest nodes within a certain cluster of talent are, who the influencers are, identifying individuals who might not otherwise show up on the typical organizational chart. We then match these teams to opportunities with hiring companies. The hiring companies then have opportunities to bid on hiring the entire teams and lifting them out as units, getting a team that's gone past the forming, storming, norming phases and can hit the ground as a high-performing team day one. Great. Who are we competing with? Well, there's the traditional resume sourcing, passive candidates, and placement marketplaces. But the only option right now for getting a team that has a history of working together that can hit the ground running day one are the Deloitte Digitals and the other agencies of the world. We think team-based hiring is the next evolutionary leap for growth companies, and we're ready to own that market. Do we have traction? I stepped down in January as CEO of my last company. We have 80 companies signed up, accepted our terms at this point in time. We've got over 800 teams to match with those companies. This is our current team. We're 100% bootstrapped. As of today, on Tuesday, we got our first $22,000 in revenue. Today we have one offer going out. Tomorrow we have a second offer going out. Today we also got a request from Microsoft for a team of 18 to build a new product that they're launching. We think in the future, the majority of work will be performed by semi-autonomous clusters of talent. Building a platform that allows these teams to put themselves on the marketplace is an incredible opportunity. Thank you.
How do those companies pay you?
So a couple ways that we're testing right now. We have one trial client paying us a monthly SaaS fee for the very loosely defined preferential treatment. They pay us $2,000 a month, and they have the opportunity to basically know that we're going to put good teams in front of them before we do that with everyone else. They actually came to us and basically said, we'd like this sort of treatment. We want to see you take off. We know you're bootstrapped. Can we start paying you for this? So they asked to pay for a product we weren't offering, which is a nice thing to do. Everyone else has agreed to a percentage of year one salary per hire made, and it depends on the overall package. So for instance, in partnering with one of our partners that we're doing the Microsoft deal with, we have a total budget, and we get as much of the budget as we don't have to spend. So we're told this is how much we have to buy the team. If you can get the team for less, you get that carry. Most are 15% of year one salary.
So are you a middleman who tries to assemble teams and is actively involved, or are you just a marketplace?
We're a marketplace. The incredible thing, the most exciting thing for us, we've struggled to understand the hiring side some, and are really just dialing on in that in the last 30 days in a new way. But where we had incredible success, unexpected, was the resonance with incredibly talented individuals who, if you go to their LinkedIn pages, you see nothing because they're sick of being spammed, right? These are the passive candidates that don't show up anywhere else. We're talking founding developers of some of the world's most well-known and fastest growing companies.
So you're a hands-off marketplace?
At the moment, we do have to intervene a little bit because we have not yet built the full platform. So for instance, the team goes on, they form their team, that all happens automatically. The matching of that team to opportunities still requires manual intervention. Our CTO can probably tell you how many hours we are from having that part deployed, probably today if we weren't here. So we're automating that part.
Ultimately, like in a few months, it'll be hands-off, it's all automated.
Absolutely. We know for a marketplace to succeed, the less intervention, the better.
Okay, last question for me. Tell me if this is the right model. A friend calls me and says, hey, we're going to auction ourselves as a team. Do you want to be part of it? I say, sure. Another friend calls, says the same thing. I say, sure. An offer comes in, and, well, maybe I actually want to work for that company, maybe I don't. So you mentioned an 18-person team. When it comes time, maybe 10 of them are actually willing. Is that an issue? Is that a problem? Is everyone?
Yeah, it's not an issue because the teams are only thinking of themselves as teams when we're telling them they're teams. That's not a shared concept they had previously. They've resonated with very well. We spent less than $5,000 in targeted Facebook advertising saying 50% of Americans stay in jobs you don't like because you love your coworkers. What if you could get a new job together?
My question is, Intel hires an 18-person team.
Yeah.
But when it comes time to sign, only 10 of them actually want to move.
Right, I'm sorry, it was a long-winded answer. Both the hiring partners and the teams know that they can select whichever individuals of the team they like, and the preference is to make an offer to the whole team, but it's not required.
Look, mine is about just the market opportunity, because having been in the corporate world for more than 25 years, it's kind of a niche where you actually have that many headcount that you're going to open at one time. This is not a daily activity. So what's the actual total opportunity?
Yeah, great question. So basically, if our hypothesis that the future of work is semi-autonomous clusters of talent and then we need a way for these teams to advocate for themselves and their high value, we have an opportunity to go into the entire global staffing industry market and become an operating system for the future of work. This mostly is going to happen in small teams. The majority of our teams are 2 to 3 person teams, and one of the really sweet spots is a Series B funded startup. So we're working with talent advisors at some of the top VC firms. They just got a bunch of money. They need to get a UI, product designer, front end, and back end person at once. And if we can bring them a team that has successfully launched XYZ apps into the marketplace previously, and they can hire them on day one, that's going to be our sweet spot. So it's not the big 18-person teams. Microsoft request today is actually a very unusual request for us.
We have time for one more question. Or we'll just turn it back over. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Mark with Kepler Communications.
Hi, I'm Mark from Kepler Communications. Over 12 years, 110 small commercial satellites have been launched. In the following 8 years, there'll be 2,500 small commercial satellites going up, almost 25 times as many satellites. And every one of these satellites that gathers our weather, tracks our planes, and maps our world, they have the same fundamental problem. They can only communicate their data down to the ground when they're directly above a ground station. This corresponds to about 10% of their service life, or 2 hours a day. At Kepler Communications, what we want to do is build the first cell phone tower network in space, providing real-time global coverage for satellites. What this will allow is more accurate weather, more reliable ship and plane tracking, and more reliable satellite control. And the reason we can do this is we're using the Kepler CubeSat. It's a satellite that costs only $200,000 to build and $300,000 to launch. It's the world's smallest and cheapest telecommunication satellite ever. It's 10 by 10 by 30 centimeters, and it's 1/100th the size of any competitor. And letter of intent after letter of intent, we get the same resounding feedback. Our customers want to see what our infrastructure can provide and what new business models that they can unlock. And we're not naive to think that we can do this overnight. We started in May 2015, where we started building our business, and we decided that we were going to build our technology following NASA standards. We're opening our seed round this May, and we were planning to use this money to put 2 satellites into orbit. These 2 satellites will be able to generate $5 million in annual recurring revenue. Using that, we're going to leverage that a little and raise another $30 million in both debt and equity financing. And that will allow us to scale up our network and grow to be a $48 million grow to have $48 million in annual recurring revenue. And we got a dream team backing us up. We have PhDs in aerospace, electrical engineering. We got a CEO from a major telecom provider in Canada. And we're backed by a bunch of great mentors, including Joe Landon, the CFO of Planetary Resources, which is an asteroid mining company. And we have a lot of great traction as well. We've been through accelerators, and we've been through incubators. We have $500,000 already raised in financing, and we've secured an LOI worth $1.4 million a year. And we'd like to get anyone on board to help us through this journey.
So the obvious question is, how does your technology compare with RBC's?
So what RBC is doing is they're building a network of ground stations on the ground. What we're trying to do is build a network of satellites in space. We still need the ground segment, so we could partner. But the plan is we're going to use our own ground stations for now. We only need 1 or 2 for the first bit.
Can you remind me how many satellites you need to get the
Real time.
real time?
Yeah, so to cover the entire globe, we need 50 satellites, and what that corresponds to is 5 orbits of 10 satellites each. And when I gave the costs, it was for like 1 satellite at 1 unit. When you scale up, the costs go down.
You said you're going to be putting 2 up in space. Are you partnering with people? Are you having to pay to get on the satellites? Or
So we're gonna use we're raising financing. We're gonna use that money to launch 2 satellites, and we have customers on board to be able to use those satellites and generate revenue from those 2 satellites. So it's not a partnership. We're just making revenue.
So you're launching them on your own. They're not going up with something else.
So the way it works with these CubeSats is you actually buy a ticket with someone else to get into orbit, but it's our own personal satellite.
From an angel investor viewpoint, the amount of cash you'll require is scary.
So it's not that much. Like I said, $500,000, or for an angel, I guess that's
You're referring to the 30 million?
Oh, the 30 million. Okay.
Yes.
No, so we need 2.5 million to get us to the first 2 satellites in space, and that's more reasonable. and from there, we're already generating revenue.
So that 2.5 million, how much are you hoping to get from angels? Or is it 500 from angels and then a VC round?
So we've already got 500,000.
I think we can't talk about financials in this setting.
I'm not going to talk about financials.
Let me just take it a little bit.
Other non-financial related questions from the judging panel? All right, well, thank you very much. All right, this is our last presentation. Michael with Infinite Ops. Just so the audience knows on that financial question, per SEC, when you have accredited and non-accredited investors, you're not allowed to disclose where you are with your funding round and how much you're raising.
All right, thank you. I'm Michael Frazier, CEO of Infinite Ops, and we provide workspaces in the cloud and beyond. I have an in-depth background in the technology space. I started out in the Air Force and went from there. I had multiple managed service IT support companies and decided to start Infinite Ops to build out a solution that solves providing workspaces in the cloud. We have a very robust team of people. A couple of people have exited that have expertise in the desktop space. And we have pulled together a team that we have that are working together to build this platform out to provide it to IT service providers and internal IT departments. So the IT conundrum is that the cloud is very complex, a lot of time required, DevOps people would need to be hired, and customer scaling just costs. So we've brought our product to market that allows for us to provide workspaces that solve a lot of different business and technological issues. So on the business front, there are a lot of different components that most organizations are looking to try to solve by going to the cloud. They want access to their data and applications. They want the ability to be able to drive down costs as well as a superior user experience for their end users. And then on the technical front, there's clouds, workspaces that are desktops and applications. Different things like profiles, Active Directory, all the kind of pieces and parts and integration pieces all together. So what we've done is we've combined them into a single console, a single pane of glass that we call it, the Infinite Ops console, which allows for us to provide workspaces on different cloud providers. We have integrations with Amazon, Azure, Microsoft Azure, as well as with Google, and we provide multiple different workspace options. We've made this as simple as possible so that we have wizards that take 1 minute. So for days of work, we can get it down for a deployment into a minute of time that the administrator has access in the system, has to go in, 3 steps, and they have an entire workspace deployment provisioning in the cloud. We take minutes, not days, so it's about saving time for the service provider as well as ensuring that the customer, their end users, have the ability to have workspaces in the cloud quickly and easily. It's completely secure, and we built in security both on our platform as well as on the underlying workspace deployments. And we have multiple integrations with multiple companies out there. I actually have a meeting this afternoon to discuss a negotiation with 100,000 licenses for the channel play. And there are companies in the channel that want the ability to provide workspaces to their partner base, and that's our current target market. And I will open it up to questions.
Can you give a quick example use case?
Absolutely. So an organization, an IT service provider wants to take their desktops, their servers, and everything else to the cloud. The use case for this would be their IT service provider or their internal IT department we give them access to the platform, everything's completely automated in the platform, and they'll have the ability to log in, fill in a couple of prompts go through 3 steps in a wizard and start deploying their workspace deployment. What they get after about an hour of time is the ability to log in to the specific workspace solution out there, or the template that they have that they've deployed, and be able to log in and start being able to access the desktops on one of the various cloud providers that they've deployed on. And they also have the freedom of choice to go to what cloud provider they want.
And if I'm just a professional inside the company, not part of IT, do I notice anything different when the company moves to your solution, or are you just involved with the IT department?
So currently, we're involved in the IT department because we're a platform that augments and a layer on top of what they want in the cloud and the workspaces side. So they don't have to bring any additional development expertise or engineering expertise. This requires no additional technical understanding of any of the underlying architectures, and so they have the ability to deploy the workspaces in the internal IT. We're focused on internal IT because there's still some technical requirements in the back end, but overall, the whole platform is about simplicity and making sure that they have very little to no learning curve to get into the platform, unlike a lot of other solutions in the marketplace.
Are you primarily targeting companies that have VDI out there and it's an alternative to VDI?
Good question. So it's not VDI. We are solutions that are mostly session-based desktops in the cloud. Because of the fact of how complex VDI is, for us, we've solved that by ensuring that we have companies that can get the user experience they're looking for. So we've leveraged some other technologies out there, but there are some technological nuances that have to do with the public cloud providers due to Microsoft licensing. And so we don't do true VDI, but we do session-based desktops on various providers such as Citrix, Parallels, Microsoft. So we have all the integrations. So we're a layer on top that does the provisioning and the management of all of those underlying. So they can pick and choose different options in the platform. So they can have one customer on Citrix, they can have one customer on Microsoft Remote Desktop Services, and have the ability to have them on different cloud providers as well.
How are you handling security?
From a security standpoint, we have our entire front end is built through another company called Auth0. So we do multi-factor authentication. We ensure that we have multiple pieces of security on the front end. As for the workspace solution, each one of them is structured on the security parameters that they have in place that we can put in there, as well as on the cloud front. So as long as the cloud service provider has certain security functions, for instance on HIPAA, as long as the cloud security or the cloud service provider has the ability to encrypt drives, we can have them be HIPAA compliant as well.
Do none of the cloud service providers provide this sort of service themselves?
No, so we're a layer on top. So we simplify. So if you go to Microsoft Azure, if you go into the interface, there's all kinds of different services you can pick and choose from. We've packaged it together so the IT service provider does not have to know anything about the underlying technology, not just on the workspace side, but also on the cloud front. So we're a layer on top of the workspace, a layer on top of the cloud. So we do all the orchestration and provisioning of the deployments and the management thereafter.
How are you finding your customers?
So currently we're working through licensing negotiation deals with some of the top players in the channel. They provide different solutions like professional services automations for these IT service providers. And so they have partner bases of 10,000 plus partners. I'm actually going to meet with them one of them this afternoon to negotiate 100,000 plus seats that they would be able to disseminate licensing to their partner base. So for us, we're focused on larger companies in the channel space that have 8,000 to 10,000 partners each.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that was our last pitch. We all are going to have a break now. It's actually ahead of schedule, which is amazing. So I will say 15 minutes for the judges. They were supposed to have 10, but that gives everybody in the room 15 minutes to network amongst themselves. There's still some food, I think, back in the back corner. Help yourself to that. And when we come back in 15 minutes, we will announce the top 3.